Guys, a lot to talk about since this series has started, obviously, but I think we need to start here. The big man scorer in this series, it's LaMarcus Aldridge. Clearly, the guy is off the charts. 78 points in the first two games, 38, 41, 79. Yeah, my math is bad. I was told there'd be no math. But what does the Thunder do with this guy? I mean, they've left him largely in one-on-one situations. Serge Ibaka mostly, but some Steven Adams. Varying degrees of success, not much either way you look at it. Anthony, what do they do?
Well, I think their issue is they let him get off in game one by playing terrible defense, just picking pops, wide open jumpers, and he really got himself going. Then in game two, I think they played him how they should play him, which is, basically just one-on-one, Serge Ibaka and Steven Adams, who are two pretty good, solid post defenders. Kind of leave them on an island, leave everyone else to, try to not give up, double down threes to Green, Parker, whoever. But the problem was, I think they just got him going so much that game two, he hit some incredible contested shots, power layups. He wasn't even really getting fouls. There was probably 5 or 6 times they could have been and ones that they weren't. So if he continues to play like this, he's a problem. But it's hard to, I'm not sure he's going to keep playing at this level, 80% of his shots.
Yeah.
The Spurs are shooting the kind of shots the Thunder wants them to shoot.
Yeah,
contested
twos.
Shots, right. They don't want to give you open threes. They don't want to give you shots at the rim. LaMarcus Aldridge, especially in game two, making a lot of tough shots. If somebody's making tough shots on you, you don't want to change your defense too much. I mean, you want to keep making them shoot tough shots. So, and the thing that the benefit of staying with what you're doing is you're taking the Spurs somewhat out of their traditional passing game. The Thunder gets lit up for always doing ISO. The Spurs are doing much more isolation in this series than the Thunder. So the Spurs are sort of doing what the Thunder wants them to do, just a great players making plays.
It's so tempting to keep throwing it to him and letting him score instead of passing around the perimeter like they're so well known for. It's hard to pass up a guy that's scoring at the rate he's scoring right
Tony
now.
Parker talked about it a little bit, and this is some Tony Parker and just some Aldridge here, is that he knows he's only going to get 3, 4, 5 shots a game now because that's just where he's at in his career, and it's also where the Spurs are at in their roster. He can't really get in as much of a rhythm, but he knows that, hey, that's his role. So I do think it affects the Spurs' offense at times. But I will say the Thunder, according to Billy Donovan, talked about doubling Aldridge at halftime because remember, right before half of game two, they did, I think it was 5 straight post-ups. He scored on all 5. And then in the second half, we saw it a couple times. One time in particular, I can remember, Steven Adams comes from the backside, doubles him with Ibaka. The Spurs did what we expected them to do. They swung it around. They got Tony Parker a wide-open corner 3, which Billy Donovan said he didn't like that shot. You don't want to give up. That's the shortest corner 3. But Tony Parker's not a very good three-point shooter, so he missed it. So I think there are times selectively to throw a double from different places and maybe leave a Tony Parker open.
Well, Eric, I think that's the question. If you double on a consistent basis, how much of that perimeter is exposed with a team that moves it so well? Is that a worse fate for the Thunder considering the opponent?
Most certainly. And I think that the thing that helped the Thunder in the second game was that they did a better job on Kawhi Leonard. They stopped Danny Green from getting out for the most part in transition. They made him come off the three-point line and take those twos, which he was not very good at. So if LaMarcus Aldridge is going to get his, which he did in both games, but you're denying Kawhi Leonard for shooting 10 of 13 from the field, and you're keeping Danny Green from getting hot from 3, then I think that's a victory for the Thunder.
Yeah, definitely so. Perimeter defense in this series, guys, was it's had its moments when it hasn't been great. You mentioned Danny Green getting going there late, got them back in the game late in game 2. But how do you assess that perimeter defense? Have we is it getting a pass in some ways because Aldridge is getting so many shots, or has it been decent considering the way that these guys play?
Game 1 and game 2. I mean, it was terrible in game 1. It was really good in game 2. They
vastly different.
Yeah, they played Leonard a lot better. I mean, we know Robertson, Waiters, they kind of tag teamed it. They left Durant, and this might have been good for Durant's shooting. He went 11 and 19. He kind of stuck on Danny Green, which you got to stay on Danny Green, but you also don't have to worry about screens and back screens and guarding him off the dribble. Westbrook, I think in a lot of ways, he was exposed in game 1. They had Parker and a lot of pick and rolls, 12 assists. I guess he played better. I don't think they put Russell in as many pick and rolls in game 2, but he must have also played it better. I'd have to kind of study that tape more.
Well, Barry, you're writing about Andre Robertson for our Friday newspaper and on News OK, and the defensive job that he's been doing. Deion Waiters also doing some decent defensive work out there. What's your take on that perimeter D?
Well, to me, the perimeter defense has been pretty good. It wasn't even awful in game one if you take away the transition. That's where they got burned, was in transition.
Russell was bad.
Well,
He was
the
just,
pick and roll. The pick and roll, yeah,
which
definitely.
is perimeter.
Which is perimeter. But in terms of defending the three-point line, they've done a good job except in transition.
Yeah.
And they let Danny Green get loose both games in transition. So if they'll get back on defense, I think they're going to be okay on defense. Aldridge is going to score. But Andre Robertson has shown that he can at least slow Kawhi Leonard. That gives a lot of relief to Kevin Durant. I think AC's right. I think that's one reason Durant felt more freedom on offense. He was just out there sort of playing tag with Danny Green.
Yeah, it's become kind of weird.
He's not getting worn
It's
out.
become kind of a weird part of the series where everyone going in. I mean, it was Leonard against Durant, this one-on-one matchup with these incredible small forwards. Leonard's guarding Westbrook and Durant's guarding Green. Durant's basically, he's not playing the two-guard position, but he's playing against the Thunder's two-guard on both sides. He's guarding Danny Green, and Danny Green's guarding him.
Right. Does that matchup get any steam as this series goes ahead, or
What, Kawhi and Durant?
the Leonard Durant? I mean,
I think only if Durant starts going off and Pop feels it's necessary. But I think at this time, and I would agree with Popovich, it's more wise to have him on Westbrook, that head of the snake.
Yeah, is that just wishful thinking by us, Eric, that we would want that to be a thing? Because I mean, we sat around for days talking about how that was going to be the deciding matchup of this series.
Yeah, and even as Kawhi's defended Westbrook, I mean, Westbrook did the smart thing in game 2 and got out and ran on him, so he didn't have a chance to defend him in the half court as much as he did in game 1. So is that matchup going to develop more? Like Anthony said, it probably depends on how hot Durant gets, and he hasn't been scorching yet in this series.
Yeah, I thought obviously the work they did on Leonard was huge in game 2, but let's not forget Tim Duncan, the defense. Since we're talking about defense and throwing out praises here, I mean, Tim Duncan is still Tim Duncan, albeit an older Tim Duncan. 2 points. He just looked completely out of his element against Steven Adams. A lot of good defense being played by these guys, Barry.
Yeah,
In game 2,
Yeah,
by the way. Let's
here's
clarify.
That distinction.
What's interesting to me is the Thunder's playing really well on the inside, the interior. Ibaka's shot it well. Kanter had a really good game 2. Adams was sensational in game 2.
This shouldn't be a surprise.
It's not a surprise, but the surprise to me is Aldridge has been so great that he's countered that. And if you get that kind of inside domination, the Thunder should win. But because Aldridge is so over the top, 33 of 44, averaging 39.5 points a game, it's an even matchup right now. So this comes down to just trying to slow down Aldridge and keep those other guys in check. The Thunder's not going to light up San Antonio. They're too good on offense. We saw it game 2. Spurs too good on defense. Thunder gets off to the great start.
Yeah.
They still don't get to 100 points. 21 points third quarter, 21 points fourth quarter. They're not going to get to the 110, 115 mark against San Antonio. So you got to
potentially at home
down.
if they really get out on the break. And
Well,
things are flying
I almost
around,
think San Antonio will slow it down.
Yeah.
I think
They will.
they've been playing faster than maybe we thought they would on purpose, and the Thunder's forced them to play faster. But, especially in game 2. But I think Pop will slow it down in game 3.
Going to try. The one thing where game 1, why they couldn't really get out was Spurs are making everything. You're taking it out under the hoop. That's what really helps defensively. How many times do we see Westbrook off a rebound get out? Sometimes he's going 1-on-2, whatever, but they're not set. I mean, the Thunder's transition offense helps so much when they just get some stops.
Well, and guys, I think it's interesting the speed and athleticism of the Thunder. I mean, we've seen it really come to the fore when they play small, but the way that they're dominating in the middle, is there any reason why you would go small in this series? Is there a reason that, I mean, I'm sure from time to time there may be points, but Eric, there's not a lot. I mean, they're playing so well big right now.
It didn't look good when they did go small in game 2 with that 3-guard lineup and Durant at power forward. Once Steven Adams got back in with Enes Kanter, it looked a lot better, and they kept Deion Waiters out there with Durant, and I believe who was the last guy they put in?
I think it was Payne, wasn't it? It's
Well,
Payne, Morrow.
Payne they took out.
Payne, Morrow. Started out with Payne, Morrow, and Waiters.
And then it was, then they added a center and took Payne out. They basically subbed Adams for Payne, and that's not going small.
Yeah,
Then they were going super
If
big.
you go small on the inside, you need to stay as big as you can on the outside, which means Russell Westbrook needs to play. Don't go small without Russell
Well,
Westbrook.
he should have played 6 more minutes than he did.
Is there any
anyways.
chance is there a chance we don't see Campaign again in this postseason?
Oh, there's a chance.
Chance. I think he will play.
Yeah, I bet he gets second quarter minutes tomorrow.
Does he need to play with Russell Westbrook?
No.
Now, some people say yes.
I don't
Some
think
people
so.
say that.
I mean,
that-
everyone is going to look better with Russell Westbrook. on
But here's the
court.
theory, and I'm not saying I agree with it, but I got a reader that's always on me about this. He says putting Payne with Westbrook would alleviate some of the ball handling pressure on Westbrook and Durant. His theory is when your two guard is Andre Robertson and your power forward is Serge Ibaka,
There's only so many ball
there's only
handlers
two
on the
ball
court.
handlers out there, and that increases the pressure on Durant and Westbrook. I don't know if I agree with it, but we have not seen much of Payne and Westbrook together all season
That's-
long.
Well, the problem with Payne, though, he looked so shaky handling the ball. in
That's
game
right.
He
two.
did.
Yeah,
So
he did.
it's going to be hard. I don't know if it's going to be hard or not for Billy Donovan to go back to him. I mean, that might even provoke him to go to Randy Foye.
Right.
Because Payne just looked like he
Joy,
was out of his,
Randy Foy.
It looked like he was out of his element in game 2 to me, Payne, and it showed.
We need Randy Foye to be the hero. We haven't done any Foye headlines.
Joy,
we got,
Joy,
we
Foye?
got all, we got all kinds of
Foye,
puns.
Joy?
Hey,
Oh, DeFoy.
I think those are going to stay in the tank,
Well,
sadly.
no, I mean, it's a long shot.
It is a long
So,
shot.
you guys are kind of worried about Payne Westbrook. The pairings, I don't know why we're not seeing as much. If they're going to go small, they shouldn't go Durant and Canner. That's a terrible front line defensively.
Oh, yeah.
You got to go
You gotta
Durant and
Adams
Ibaka.
or Ibaka, either one.
I mean, Ibaka's like the guy it's always been. Durant is maybe the best small ball 4 in the league because though he's a 3, he's really 7 foot. And then Ibaka's like an incredible center for that type of lineup. And Adams is getting to that level. I mean,
No, I agree. Yeah,
it's
not
dumb.
Canner.
It's dumb to
It's
go
not
small.
Canner.
And then my issue is I feel like they're playing a lot of minutes. A lot of Canner's minutes this series are with Payne and not with Russell Westbrook. Where is Enes Kanter best? Pick and rolls with Russell Westbrook. He should be having his minutes fused with Westbrook, whereas any Durant small ball lineups cannot be with Kanter.
Yeah, Canner's been almost a non-factor in this series, and really until his forearm shivered, Dion Waiters was as well.
I'd say Kanter's been a factor in his minutes. I mean, I think he had 12 points and the other night. The
not
problem
as
is
significant as
It's
we
quiet.
thought.
well, it's
he
because
might be.
he's not playing that many minutes because he
He needs to play more, no doubt about it. You're right. He needs to play with Westbrook.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and
Everybody needs to play with Westbrook.
does Westbrook just need to play every minute of the game? For
I
a
wouldn't.
while?
I would have
vote
gone
against
42
more.
to 43.
won't
Billy
vote
was saying,
against it.
Billy was talking about, he plays so hard that he does need breaks, and like that's true, but he could have came back in 3 to 4 minutes earlier in the second half the other
but
day.
He sat out the last 41
41
in
And
the
then-
third quarter, and then the first 3 minutes of the fourth quarter, and it was the Thunder's by far the worst 6 minutes of the game.
Hey, let's remind people you're watching Thunder Thursday. We're brought to you by J. Marshall Square, Oklahoma City's own big house apartment community.
Only big house apartment community.
That too. Let's talk about Dion Waiters for a second. Eric, you had a story in today's Oklahoman, the Thursday Oklahoman, and on News OK about Dion Waiters and his part in the fateful 13-5 there at the end of game 2. Everybody obviously knows the forearm, but he also hits a 3 that was huge down the stretch. The fact he was cueing in the ball at that point was huge. There's a lot of trust Billy Donovan's given this guy. Why?
Oh, because I think one, because he doesn't have a lot of options besides Dion Waiters, and he realizes this is his best two-way option at the shooting guard position. And then two, I think Dion Waiters showed that he can go out and play sound defense against Kawhi Leonard when Andre Robertson is out of the game. I mean, I was kind of looking around when he took Robertson out at, I guess, 6'11", and I was looking at Barry Trammell, and I'm like, oh, is this a good idea?
Yeah.
Robertson's been locking this guy up the entire game. But Waiters came in, and Leonard scored on him one time, but then he got 2 stops late. And then he was ready for his opportunity with that 3, which came off some of the best ball movement we've seen out of the Thunder all year.
The reason they made that sub was because Billy made it right after Robertson. They got a nice look. Durant fed him in the corner, and Andre Robertson hit the backboard on a corner 3. And Billy immediately puts Waiters in, and as he's mentioned, that possession a few later, it's the same exact spot, wide open, and Waiters hits it.
And
Yeah.
Waiters was, I guess he was 0-4 to that point, but I mean, with the way that Robertson is
He was
shooting,
4-4 in his own mind, though.
Yeah, he wakes up in a new world every possession.
0 for 4, 0 for 10, 0 for 20. Waiters says, I'm going to keep shooting.
Yes, we know, Dion.
But you know, he's been one of the Thunder's, actually one of their better three-point shooters this year. I think he's shot like 37% from 3 this year. That's far better than what Robertson's going to bring you. And
if he D's them up, then,
Billy
then
took
they
a gamble
feel like
with the
that's
defense,
right.
and it worked.
Robertson's 1 for 10 from 3 in the playoffs, and I'd say at least 10 more possessions
Where he's
have
passed
been.
up.
He's passed up, or I remember there was one the other day where Danny Green, they got the switch they wanted where Robertson's screen for Durant, and then Parker was on Durant, so they posted Durant up, but Danny Green from this corner ran all the way over to double, and Durant was like kind of confused. They tried it ended up being a turnover, but it was like the reason it was because of Robertson.
Barry, does Dion Waiters become part of San Antonio Spurs fans' list of enemies at this point after the way Game 2
yeah, I
ended?
guess so. The Spurs have no ground to stand on in terms of being upset
Angry.
about the end of that game.
But we're talking fans. We're not
I
talking.
don't think he'll get like booed because
I think he will.
I'm sort of with Jacko. I think he will. I think he is. I think they've made him a villain. You know, Russell's the eternal.
they're gonna boo
villain.
the refs.
Well,
I feel
yeah,
like
but they
I
didn't
feel
like. They didn't like. Here's the problem. Dion's foul, his everything, all the things that happened in the last 13.5 seconds.
And there were many.
Most of that was anonymous. We didn't know. Hardly anybody knew that Manu stepped on the line. Hardly anybody knew that Patty Mills bear hugged
But
Steve
now
Adams.
they do know.
You might have seen this. You might have seen the shirt, but everybody saw
The elbow.
Dion Waiters come across and pop Manu Ginobili. So that night in the arena, the anger became palpable immediately. And then, of course, what happened. And so I think Dion will become sort of a. I think
My thing is, like, everyone has now had time to digest the 13 seconds, realize everything that was going on, realize the ref screwed up, all the other stuff that happened. The Spurs really didn't get jobbed. I don't think he becomes like a Barea here or a Beverly here.
Well, we'll see. It'd be fun to find out. Game 5.
Yeah, you almost wish that there was a game after Game 2, like a day
Yeah.
after in San Antonio, because it's going to be a while between then and the next time this series goes to San Antonio. But how does Game 2 impact this one, guys? I mean, we saw how Game 1 impacted Game 2. Thunder refocused, really got serious on the defensive end. So how does 2 factor into 3 from both sides? Eric, what do you think?
Well, from the Spurs side, I don't think it changes much of anything. I think they're going to come in here and play the same way that they've been playing, and they're such a veteran team that I don't think that ending is going to affect them in any way. From the Thunder side, it just gives you confidence going into the next game, and it gives you confidence that you actually have a series of this, and you made the proper adjustments from Game 1 to Game 2 to say, you know, we can hang with this team, and we can stop them from going crazy on us in the first 5-6 minutes of a game.
Only the second team to win at San Antonio this season. Huge accomplishment. Barry, does it bleed over? Do we see San Antonio coming out and try to make a point?
Well, I think the Spurs will make some adjustments. To me, the biggest problem offensively for San Antonio was, despite all the post-ups, despite all the ISO for LaMarcus Aldridge, they actually went away from it for a good chunk of the second half.
There was times where Enes Kanter was on him and they weren't
Yeah,
going to it.
so
It
I
was
mean, I
like,
don't know really
all
why
right.
that occurred. It wasn't like they were running a bunch of pick and roll. So I don't know what happened there. I think if Aldridge is hot again, if he's working in the ISO, I don't think they'll go away from it this time. I think they're going to make the Thunder play. You know, they're going to try to make the Thunder double team Marcus Aldridge.
What's the bleed over in your mind, AC? I mean,
Well,
you do have a Thunder team that went from huge loss to a victory, and we saw that in this first
I
series,
think-
and it still was a 5-game
I think
series.
the biggest thing here is like the fans. I think are going to be a factor. This place is jacked up, and I think the game. If it was 0-2, I mean, it would still be a good crowd, but it'd be like a worried crowd. Now I think from tip, it's going to be like a rabid crowd that senses, if they can get these 2 wins for their team,
Yeah.
it potentially, sets up a Warriors conference finals. There's the whole Durant thing lingering over where this franchise is teetering right now.
Right.
I just think home court advantage in this series, like home court advantage matters in every sport, in every series, but like really this series, I think there's a difference.
You could see that passion really bleeding over to the outcome of this game.
Especially early. I'm interested to see that, from tip to 6 minute to that first media timeout. Like, can the Thunder really jump on the Spurs, or do the Spurs, are they able to waver that off, maybe get ahead and take the crowd out of it a little bit?
What's
Yeah.
interesting is this is the third playoff series since 2012 between these two teams. This is the first time a road team has won before Game 5.
Yeah.
We've always gone 2-0, then 2-2, 2-0, 2-2.
Yeah, and the other thing is the Spurs have never won Game 3 or 4 in Oklahoma City. They won Game 6 a couple years ago. That's the only road playoff game they won here, I believe.
Barry, you mentioned Spurs adjustments. What do you feel like Oklahoma City will adjust?
I think they will show a little bit on the double team, not a true double team, but I think get it down there on the medium post to LaMarcus Aldridge. If Tony Parker's on that side of the floor or about close, if he's not in the other corner, I think Westbrook, whoever, will sort of dart back and forth, do some, try to do some confusing.
Maybe Westbrook. The one, like I said, that I thought was interesting is that they came off Duncan. It was Adams coming off Duncan for like a behind him double team. Mm-hmm. Then it was either Robertson or Westbrook dips down and kind of fronts Duncan, and you leave Parker. Parker's clearly the guy to leave.
Eric, you and I have both written about Steven Adams in the last couple of days, but he really seems to be. I mean, we've seen that continued evolution out of him, but 17 boards in that game 2. I mean, just an unbelievable amount of rebounds.
Lucky.
Yeah, luck, according to him. I don't buy it. But and then holding Duncan to 2 points, his activity on that last sequence. I mean, is this sort? We've seen, it seems like every year the Thunder's been in the playoffs, a guy sort of have that breakout playoff. Is this Steven Adams' time to be that guy this year?
I mean, I think we've seen this from the Dallas series on to now, and I mean, it really bore fruit in that game in game 2. But in the Dallas series, he was starting to have some really great offensive performances. We saw the diversity of his offense with the up and under dunks, the reach back dunk he had against Dallas.
Those pick and roll dunks that have sort of come back to.
Yeah, the lob is back in play. Yeah. It seems like he's growing just exponentially game by game offensively in terms of his confidence. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we knew that he could be a good defensive player. He's shown that throughout the year and in his post defense. Mm-hmm. But the way his offense has blossomed, it just gives you another asset for the Thunder. And I mean, he's playing against a 40-year-old center and he's taking advantage of it. Yeah. Now, there's some people within our sports department, not anybody in here, that might think he might be a tad overrated. But I think Steven Adams is properly rated right now. He might be a little underrated.
Only thing to slow him down on that last sequence was a fan grabbing his arm. I mean, he was everywhere.
The playoffs are built for him. It's really physical, and they allow it. Like, they were allowing a lot the other day.
Clearly.
Yeah, right, especially in the last play. Just that tough, rugged mentality, like, it is built. Like, he hasn't been in foul trouble yet in this play, which is important, and that might be a factor in 3.
Of all the infractions on that final play, none of them can be attributed to Steven Adams.
Yeah, he didn't foul anybody.
Everybody else on the court had something going on, except Steven Adams.
And he was
he was everywhere the ball was.
Playing out of his mind.
He was where the pass came in bounds. He was where Patty Mills was at the basket. He was obviously where Patty Mills was at the corner. He was everywhere on that.
You had a fan personal foul, and you didn't have a Steven Adams personal foul.
I mean, he's. We could think about centers in the league. There's not very many good two-way centers. He's potentially top 5, top 8
he's
center.
Definitely
in
climbing
basketball, he's 22.
Rankings.
Well, he's not there yet, but he's driving down DeAndre Jordan Boulevard.
Yeah.
He's an incredible athlete who is a defensive and rebounding force, and you figure out ways for him to score, and he's a better scorer.
I think he's a better
than
scorer,
Jordan because he's got more than the dunk. He's got a little.
Jordan has the dunk more continuously.
Right, but he's got the little one-hander, and
but he's getting there.
Free throw. He's a better free throw shooter, which is not saying a ton, but
he's adept around the rim. You know, there's plays where when he can't dunk it, he can make a move and go out for an opposite side layup. He's getting to be a really good player, and he's only 22 years old.
Well, and I think somebody said this yesterday. I don't remember where I heard it, but the fact that the Spurs didn't get as many of those tip-out rebounds that they so often get. You know, Tim Duncan is such a master at that, tipping them out to the guys that are just waiting to pop a three. You didn't see that in Game 2, and a lot of that
he was just eating rebounds.
Is Steven Adams.
He had as many rebounds in the first quarter, 7, as the Spurs.
Yeah, unbelievable. All right, guys, quickly before we're done with our Thunder Thursday, got to have some Game 3 predictions. Let's start with AC. What you got?
I think the crowd, I hate predictions, but
sorry. That's the way it goes.
Because I would have predicted the Spurs easily in 2, and that didn't happen. But I'll say Thunder by 5. I think the crowd will help. I think they're going to play well.
Barry?
I'll take the Thunder. Whoever wins Game 3, I'm going to pick to lose Game 4 because there's only a 25% chance that somebody sweeps these 2 games.
This guy's just he's calculating stuff too much over here.
No, it's fairly simple mathematics.
What you're against numbers and math?
No,
over
I just mean I don't think whoever wins 3, we can just rule out they're going to win 4 because of mathematics. I would probably guess a split because these 2 teams seem to be when the Thunder play.
So in other words, you agree with me?
I think so. All right,
You
Eric,
don't like
what
my math, but you like my result.
what you got, Eric?
There you go.
I'm very hesitant to pick the Thunder to pull out another late game situation considering their history, but since they're coming back home with that quote unquote momentum, I think they'll be able to win tonight in that 4 to 5 point range.
Yeah, I'm going to
Or
go
tonight, not tonight. It's Friday.
Friday.
Night, sorry.
I think I'm going to go Thunder too, guys. But again, I think what you said about late game. Yeah, that 13-5 gets talked about a lot. But guys, let's not forget, Serge Ibaka fouled LaMarcus Aldridge on a 3-point attempt.
Not ideal.
That was nearly disastrous in the
that
end.
was, to me, that's a lot of the collateral of what Aldridge is doing this series. Like, he was freaked out because you don't want to give Aldridge an open three. Well, normally, Aldridge didn't hit a 3 all year or
You're
in the
like,
first
go
round.
ahead and shoot
but
it,
suddenly
buddy.
he's hit 2. He hit one the possession before he had just hit one. So that's just a guy that's like, he's been told, can't let him get going, and Aldridge just keeps doing it to him. That's, you pump fake. I'm not surprised Serge did that.
That's 5 fouls on 3-point attempts in this series for this team. Oof, that's about 5 too many from where I'm sitting. But should be fun Friday night at the Peak. We'll be there, as will a lot of Thunder fans. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.